Today's guest is a powerhouse of perseverance and purpose. Lori Soto, a Kansas City native, devoted mom of three, and the unstoppable force behind the benefits boss, has built her success story from the ground up through determination, hard work, and unshakable faith. From years in retail leadership to breaking into the world of insurance, Lori's path hasn't been easy, but every challenge shaped her into the leader she is today. After being pushed out of a toxic workplace, she found her freedom, her calling, and a mission to empower others to take ownership of their future and build businesses that are served with integrity. With grit, grace, and a whole lot of hustle, Lori is defined by what defining what it looks like to rise after a setback, reminding us that sometimes God's redirection is the greatest gift of all. Hello, Lori.
Hello, I'm going to bring you along to introduce me everywhere. That was amazing.
Yeah, little chat GPT makes the best things
Oh, you know
go
what? I'm
round.
I'm trying to lean into this chat GPT thing. It's a situation, isn't it?
Well, it takes some of the things that we don't need to overthink and just get it done. So that's why I love it. But tell me, so you're now in North Texas and you were in Kansas City. So tell me a little bit about like where your story begins so we can go with how you're serving today.
Gosh, you know what? I don't really I mean, so many iterations of one's life, right? Like I feel like there are about 1.5 million different lorries along the way. But the most recent version, which is probably my favorite version, that should be your goal, right? Is to grow into who you are and love who you are,
Hmm.
has really been shaped very much by being a mom, first and foremost. I am a mom of three, and that is a calling that I think is so special, such a gift. And I'm so grateful. I've wonderful children, and that will, you know, test your faith and your patience every single day. So that's probably a number one. But yeah, I fell backwards into this health insurance thing. But out of an accident. I've met some savory characters along the way in that as well. But I mean, like, where does my story begin? I don't know. There's a Dallas Lori that's different than the Kansas City Lori. There's the Catholic schoolgirl Lori that was definitely a different iteration. I've always been a worker and a hustler, so that part was probably, born out of like necessity from being a child and liking things and knowing that I wanted to work and always get my own whatever I wanted. I would work hard for it.
Hmm.
So many just different iterations, but the most current one, probably first and foremost, is the mom and the health insurance advisor. That's such a funny, I fell backwards into it, but it's such a funny, who nobody grows up thinking they want to be a health insurance. Like nobody wants to be in insurance, right? But like I took to it like a fish to water, and I really do feel like my North Star is to do it with integrity, and that has shaped a lot of success personally and professionally because of that focus.
Well, we know that in the world of ever-changing all things, and even right now, in the environment of the current shutdown, because of the changes that are essentially caused to sunset in the Obamacare program, I
Yeah.
mean, we all know that um, in health insurance, in life in itself, constant things are constantly changing, and and we have to, but experts of yourself, who are in it can help people navigate. Hey, this is what's changing. This is what you need to worry about. This is what you don't need to worry about. Let
Totally.
me help you handle and navigate those paths.
Yeah, I say probably a dozen times a week that I think that one of the biggest disservices that we're doing where our children are concerned is there is no education for this stuff, right?
Mm.
Like we don't teach them there. I could have probably used a home economics class, honestly, because now I cook everything from the internet. So like, what do I know? I can't sew a button to save my life, but like, we don't teach them how to budget. We don't teach them how to deal with bill paying and like all of the things. And insurance definitely falls into that category. And I think it's so unfortunate because it is one of the most important decisions to really understand. And I
Mm.
think back to like my before I when I was in retail management and before I when I had like corporate plans. I wasn't even qualified to pick my family's plan, if I'm being really honest. I just kind of, they put plans in front of me and I just picked one and I had no idea. And then I was frustrated when I used it. So, I think that there's such a need for this. And now, like, part of my story is that I had a breast cancer diagnosis in 2023. And so now I get to see it from such a different vantage point too, like what it really is to deal with claims and the insurance company and them sending you back. And so it's unfortunate that there is not an education for this. That is probably my favorite part of my job is that I get to teach people what
Mhm.
is like and educate them in this process. And it's such an
Mhm.
important like thing that we do in our adult life. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because even understanding the differences between how you're covered. Like, for example, my husband has like a full-blown medical plan, but he loves to do things, everything mainstream and pharmaceutical way. Where my kids and I are very holistic. So I don't
Yeah.
participate in a robust plan at all because everything I do is cash payer. It doesn't matter if I have a plan, I still have to pay by cash because it's
Right. For
not
sure.
covered. So, but I'm also very educated in what it is things cover. And so, like, I probably should add in an accident plan just for like a
Yeah.
little bit of extra, little bit of things. Because even if I were to get, ever, the beautiful thing about being in this country is freedom of choice. Like, what if we were ever diagnosed with something as severe as cancer? It would be nice if there were plans that were more robust on the holistic healing side. Like I have a friend of mine that she chose not to do mainstream radiation and chemo, and she did ivermectin and vitamin C and oxygen therapy and all that, and she healed herself in 4 months. They
Yeah.
wanted to radiate and remove her entire uterine system, and she's like, no, you're not taking my fertility away. I've been trying to get pregnant for 10 years. So she decided to trust God and do all the holistic stuff, was cancer free in 4 months, and was pregnant the next month after that, after
Oh,
10
that's a
years.
great story.
It's an amazing story, but but the medical world made her very afraid, trying to fill her with the, things that were like, well, if you don't do this, you're going to die. And she's like, well, I'm willing to take that chance. And so, unfortunately, you also have to educate yourself as a consumer on what is right for you and your belief system, and what is it are you willing to do. And so that's where I wish the medical said. I think there's some holistic stuff coming out. I've been out of the I used to be a health insurance agent for a while. um and it was a mess, and it might still be a mess, but there were not as many options. I had gotten in right after everything, all the private stuff was being removed, and so then they had all these um they were essentially short-term plans.
Yeah.
And so there might still be short-term plans, but the short-term plans were terrible. So I don't know if they're better now.
I mean, I just again, I think so I fall into like a different category. I think that probably the best medicine is a marriage between Eastern and Western
Uh-huh.
medicine, and I think that there's probably a need for a little bit of both as you go along.
Yeah.
For me, I did do all of the traditional stuff and did a lot of stuff holistically on my own as I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
going through my journey. My
Yeah.
logic was like, even if there's a 1% chance that this is going to keep me alive for my children, then I'm going to go ahead and defer to you. But let's do this one time because I only intend to do it once. And so they really put me through the ringer.
Mm.
But I was also very fortunate. I was very healthy going into my cancer journey. Like I didn't have any comorbidities. I'm not like I was very fortunate. I didn't have diabetes, I didn't have hypertension, I didn't have high cholesterol. Like
Right.
I didn't have any of the things that most Americans are plagued with. And so
Sure.
it made my healing journey much better than probably the average. I mean, like, during chemotherapy, I had 16 chemotherapy treatments and I was walking 4 miles a day, like during treatment.
Nice.
Like I never vomited. I was definitely nauseous. It wasn't fun. I didn't feel my best, but like
Mhm.
it wasn't like what you see on TV either. So I do think that
Right.
there's something to be said for marrying the two and listening to
Mhm.
your body and you got to be careful too because you can certainly end up going down a rabbit hole. Like the internet is a wealth of information, but sorting through like what is true and what isn't, and there was a point where I was like, I've got to stop. I'm on way too many supplements. I don't even know what's working anymore because you
Yeah.
just can get like sucked into it. So I definitely think that there's a marriage of sorts between all of this stuff. But I did like Reiki healing, and there was just like a lot of stuff that I tried to incorporate that were not traditional. But even if it just made me feel in that moment in such an uncontrollable situation, like I had some control over it,
Yeah.
that was life-saving in and of itself. Just because
Nice.
you feel like everybody's doing stuff to you and you don't have a lot of say.
Hmm.
So it gave me a
Yeah.
little bit of that feeling of control. So
Absolutely. Well, I'd love to pivot over. It's not often that we talk about, well, I talk with anybody with the insurance world, but let's talk about life insurance,
yeah,
about how very important it is to have it in place before you get one of those diagnoses that makes you
yeah,
uninsurable. Well, and in having been an agent, I have had people pass away, and the family will call, like, did they have
yeah,
life insurance? And I'm like, no. And it's not because of the lack of me reaching out. It's just some people are just not responsive. They're like, oh, it'll never happen to me, right?
which
And
is crazy because the only thing that will for sure happen to you is you will die. Period.
right.
End of story. Like, so I don't understand not having life insurance personally. I am
Yeah.
overinsured, but like I
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
get
yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah, I have it, my husband, my kids, and it's just like it's one of those things where I mean, yes, we have term, we probably should pivot over to some permanent, but it's like for now, it's what our budget can allow and it's working. If something were to happen today, my husband would be fine, more than fine.
Yeah,
For myself, could I use a little more on him? Yeah, that way I'd have a little bit more cush. But he's older, right? And he's got some health stuff going on. And at this point, I think he'd probably be uninsurable. But at least I've got something on it, and you have to get it before the uninsurability thing happens.
for sure. So, I do think life insurance is so important. To me, life insurance is like a no-brainer because, as I just said, like there's only one certainty in this life, and it's that you will not survive. Like everybody's going to die. So like it's a matter of when. But the thing about life insurance specifically is yes, getting it while you're younger and while you're healthier is critical because you will lock in a rate that is much more affordable. And the thing that people don't always understand, and there are so many different strategies for how to attack life insurance. But when you're younger, the reason that term makes sense is one, for budgetary purposes, for sure, you're going to get more bang for your buck. But two, if you think about the progression of your life, getting into a term plan that's a 30-year plan when you're in your 30s makes sense because if you are now 30 years down the road and your kids are out of the house and the mortgage is paid off, you have a lot less overhead that you need and people that you need to provide for. So at that point, you can invest your dollars instead and have something that's like a final expense fund. So, you're looking at the different points of your life and what the responsibility is. And I don't think with life insurance, I mean, I think, while your kids are young and everybody is completely dependent on you, it is a different need than once you're older and they're on their own and they're making their way in the world. Although sometimes I feel like things are so expensive now that my kids are going to live with me forever. But like, yeah, I mean, life insurance is so critical. And it was one of the probably the first time that I ever really thought about it, besides whatever like my employer offered, like as part of my package. The first time I thought about it was when I was pregnant with my first child, because I'm like, there is a tiny human that is completely dependent upon me for their sole source of everything.
Mhm.
So like that's when it became really important. But I think the thing about life insurance that a lot of people don't like they don't put thought into, like they check the box and they think I've got it and they're done, is
Mhm.
that with every life change comes a different iteration of like your existence. There is
Mhm.
a different need. And with a life insurance policy, in my professional opinion, you never want to get rid of one. So if you get a term plan, live it out till the 30 years. But with every life change comes a different need to layer on more insurance, right?
Mhm.
Like, a second child meant a second policy or a revisiting of the current insurance that I had. And so I think that that's probably a very common misconception is people think it's one and done. It's not. If you get
Mhm.
married, your needs changed. If you're You bought a house, your needs changed. I tell clients all the time, look, like insurance, we're solving for the problems of today. But
Hmm.
if the situation changes, we've got to revisit the play, right? Like if you own a Honda and then you get a Lexus, everything changed. You got to go revisit the strategy now. And that's true for every different thing that happens in your life as well. And that's a very common misconception is I think people set it and forget it, and that's not really the way to go about it.
Right, right, right. No, it's so good. It's so good. Super amazing. So what was in all of the different things and how you serve the world now, what was the most important thing from, what God's brought you in and through that, was it the cancer journey? Is it being a mom? Is it all of it, which I like to, I learned from Lance Wall now, which is convergence, to create you into who you are, to provide for you, to be the leader you are today for everybody that you meet.
You know what? It's every single part of it, I think, has shaped exactly who I am and exactly where I am. But like I said, I don't like in my career specifically, it has been such a blessing. So let me just say, if I had known when I was going to that interview that I was going for an insurance job, I never would have gone, right? Like they're purposely vague about these things.
Yeah.
They don't tell you because nobody would show up. But like I got there and I was like, well, this sounds really interesting and I kind of like the people that are leading this, so I'm going to give this a try. And I ended up taking to it like a fish to water. But the reason I think and the reason that it's felt like a calling, if like that sounds so trite, but like if I was called to do it, the reason is that there is a higher propensity or higher like there's a disproportionate amount of, because of how lucrative insurance can be, of people that don't have a great moral compass, or maybe they have a decent moral compass on their way in and they lose their way along the way. That
Hmm.
has never been my approach to insurance. And I think that it has like led me very far in this career. I
Hmm.
really do believe in doing the right thing for the customer that's in front of me, whatever that situation is. I never think of selling them a product or introducing them to a product based on the money that I will make off of it, because to me, that is devilish. That is like
Yeah,
not good, right?
sure.
So I have always tried to do the right thing by the client and known in my overall career, if I use that as my North Star, if I do the right thing by the customer always, the money will follow. Like if you do the right thing, the money will follow. Like you'll be taken
Hmm.
care of. And so it has never been that those things are at odds for me. I maybe have had to work harder. I maybe have had to see more people because I don't use the other premise as like how I do business,
Hmm.
but I can sleep at night. I know that I'm, educating people. I know that they're in a better spot. Like that is always my goal. Leave them better than I found them. And
Yeah.
I don't know that that's all of my counterparts, that that's
Hmm.
where they come from. But I think for me, that's been a true blessing because like the waters are so full of these sharky agents that like when you meet one that's real and that is doing it the right way and they have your best interest at heart, the cream will rise to the top. And
Hmm.
so it has led me to have this amazing referral business because people know she's more like my friend and my advisor than she is like an insurance agent. Like I'm not just out to sell you a product. I really want to make sure you understand it and that you're protected, and that I'm able to point out to you situations where you need a coverage that you didn't even know existed. The amount of people that don't know critical illness is an important coverage to have or that it exists is
Mm.
astounding. And I'm a person who has collected on critical illness policies because of the situation that I was in. Now, again, I was very fortunate. I couldn't not work. My job allows me to work like wherever I'm at, I could work on the side of a road if I needed to. So
Hmm.
like I can do my job wherever and I don't have to be on camera or people don't see me. So like I could look like death and no one would ever know. But like I was able to work the whole time and I didn't have to like bring someone in to care for my kids and all of these things. So like I was super fortunate and I just got to bank that money. But I saw a different importance of if I really couldn't work and the bills kept coming, I still had a mortgage to pay, I still had a car payment, I still had insurance. How would I do this as a single mother if like I didn't have this critical illness policy? And I think that a lot of people don't know about that coverage, and that like it is my personal crusade to make sure that everyone has that coverage because with a critical illness especially, again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Like if you live
Mhm.
long enough, you will run into a critical illness. That is just the human body. And so getting in front of that is so vital. And
Well, and you can use the money for anything. Living expenses, paying,
100%.
like if you want holistic care, you can use it for that, all the
For sure.
things.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. It's not taxed and there's no one dictates how you utilize that money. It's such an important
Um,
message.
so so even though you're based in Texas, do you are you guys licensed everywhere?
All 50 states and DC. Yeah.
And then are you guys always like obviously there's lots of people who are looking for jobs. Somebody's listening. Are you always hiring?
Yes. Now, I will say, health insurance, insurance in general, like if I were to line 10 people up right now and ask them, hey, do you want to the potential to make six figures in your first year? Do you want to work remote, make your own hours, all of the things? Everybody would say yes. But
Sure.
the reality of this career is that, a lot of people try it. It's
Hmm.
maybe about 10% of the population that's cut out for it. So
Hmm.
like you got to come correct and understand what your limitations are. If you are, some people just need someone's foot on their back and like to be in a W-2 situation. Like 1099 is fantastic, but it's not for the faint at heart. So,
No, it's not.
yes, absolutely. We're always hiring, but it takes a special kind of person to do this and do it well and be able to like manage their life in a remote environment like this, for sure.
Sure. Well, and I guess they would just so they just connect with you on the benefitboss.com website.
They could. There's a connect with Lori, but my name, spelling my name. Let me clarify. My real name is Dolores. Lori is Dolores chopped up. So thanks for that, Mom. I've spent like crazy amount of time of my life explaining this, but Lori is Lore. So connect with Lori, Lore.com.
Okay.
And that will put you on just for like a meet and greet, like on my calendar so that we can connect and find
Yeah.
out what your purpose is. It might be insurance, it might be a job, but like, yeah,
Well, and even anybody who's, could be listening and be like, well, I mean, I don't have health insurance because, or I don't have life insurance because, or I don't have, what is this critical illness thing? Definitely still connect with her because here's the thing I can tell you is that there are, having been an agent myself, it is a real challenge to find a team that is full of integrity who's not going to just sell you for the commission. And plus you want a policy that's actually going to hold up. Well, I have the
it's the
words I want
fan.
to say, but when crap hits the fan using shiitake mushrooms instead.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's one of those things where you have to make sure you're trusting the company, the policies that they're selling, and they're not just selling the best policy for the commission. They're selling you the best policy for what you need for you for to serve your family. And I'm really grateful that we were able to connect because it's awesome to, having been in the industry, my trust in the industry is pretty shattered at this point.
Oh,
And
rightfully so. I get it.
and so people are just like, and I was even in the property and casualty side, and I am so grateful the Lord sold my business. And I mean, now I couldn't be more mad at the industry. I'm like, it is so corrupt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord, and I'm glad I'm not in it. People are like, but you used to be an agent. I'm like, it's a good thing I'm not anymore because I wouldn't be able to handle it because of just it's just craziness what's going on. But and some of it has to do with the corporate greed within the companies themselves, not the agents. It's the parent companies. And I get that you have to stay liquid. I get that
Yeah.
you have to stay liquid so you can pay the policies when the things happen. But there's something to be said when companies are allowed to pull out of states, and then the people who live in those states have little to no options to choose.
Yeah, that's like I say that to people all the time about what we do is like I don't work for the insurance companies. Like that's the beautiful part about our brokerage and how we do business is that we have contracts with hundreds of carriers. And so I get to deal with the person that's in front of me and really
Hmm.
find the right solution for them, regardless of what that looks like. And so I don't work for the insurance companies, I work for the client. And my job is to help you solve the problem with things that you probably didn't even know existed. And I think that it allows you again to do it with integrity where a lot of these people that are brokers that have one or two carriers, they're constantly trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, right? They're like, I got to make this work. I don't
Hmm.
have that pressure. And so I'm grateful for that opportunity. But yeah, I mean, insurance companies, they are a for-profit organization. So, but understanding how to work them and how to, people that have a broker, you probably have heard this in your lifetime. People that work with an agent or a broker, their claims pay out at twice as high of a rate as ones that don't, because
Hmm.
a lot of insurance is just knowing how the system works and being
Hmm.
able to like work it to your best. And I saw that, man, during my cancer treatment. Like, let me just tell
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I had there's a local family here in St. Louis whose son just had a heart transplant,
Mhm.
and he has to have a medication to stop it from being rejected.
Wow.
And the insurance denied it.
It's got to be like $1 million medication too. I
I
can't.
don't know, but I can tell you the hospital gave them a month's supply for free and will help them. It was because of some sort of clerical error, like they had to have certain things a certain way for them to approve it. And so they got the hospital working on all the different things. But it's just that's the red tape. Everybody gets just hates so much. And
Yeah.
that's where agents can be very helpful. To be like, okay, this is what we need. We need this form and we need this form. Get this doctor to do that, but
And
that's a
sometimes
nightmare.
it's in the vocabulary, right? It's the semantics. It's like call the insurance company and say this way, or call
Right.
the provider and say this way, and this is what will get the result. But a layperson shouldn't know that. Like, that's
No.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And nor should they have to. And that's why having experts like yourself
yes,
are so amazing.
keeps
So,
me employed in a broken world that we live in. Absolutely.
well, I really appreciate you, Lori, for sharing with us your heart and your passion for people and making sure they're covered properly. To our listeners, you just remember, your stories are never over. You're not disqualified by what you've been through. And remember, with Jesus, you are healed, whole, and called. Till next time.
I love it.